Hello everyone. I hope you had a nice caffeine break, coffee break, and then I certainly did, and I'm a little more alert. So we continue to enjoy studying Avatamsaka Sūtra. Before I pick up where I left off, which is about Virocana, Francois-san, our Dharma sister, from Daishinji in Belgium, Mons, Belgium, told me it's actually this text book is available in PDF for free downloading. So if you prefer using electric version of that, I think that's also a very good idea. So maybe I will ask Michelle to look for the link and place it on the website. My point was, I totally understand all of us actually surrounded by books and we no longer have space in the bookshelf. Maybe not very so if you live in not in a city like New York City, but live in the United States, and if you have a house and if you have plenty of space. American houses are so big. But this Sangha is almost 50% Americans and also Europeans and Japanese. And most of us who live in the city is the same situation as apartment in Tokyo and also in Europe as well. Our space is very small. Someday, I hope you will come to my apartment in New York City. It's a small one-bedroom apartment, so we always struggle with storage space, particularly with the books. And then some of you have been to my apartment in Tokyo. I share a 3-bedroom apartment with one of my elder sisters, but besides her master bedroom, 2 of the bedrooms are basically storage, and one of the bedroom is, it's all about the bookshelves. And my bedroom, I'm basically sleeping surrounded by, bookshelves and closets and all of that. So I totally understand your, dilemma. If you buy books like this new version of Avatamsaka Sūtra, it takes up a huge space and it's heavy. Yes, it's a very good idea to get hold of a version. The point I was trying to make was, I don't know much about in Europe, but in America, many of those Dharma centers do not have lecture series. So many of these people who are in Buddhist practice and Buddhist organizations are not familiar with our traditional style of lecture series. For instance, in Japanese monasteries, we barely talk. Actually, we don't really have much time to talk to each other for those light conversations. And of course, in Buddhist practice, we are not encouraged to have spend so much time on those light conversations. But in accrediting monasteries called Sodo, we basically have only 3 forms of talking. One of them is speaking with people who are basically supporters, like what we call Danka members. And sometimes we have more informal conversational occasion, even though we are talking about Dharma. And also, even if it's in an informal conversation occasion, we are basically talking about Buddhist scriptures, particular type of scriptures. And that's called Howa, and that's loosely translated as a Dharma talk. And in the United States, the other forms of speaking occasions has not really been introduced. So when you go to Dharma centers in America, what they are familiar with is Dharma talk, which is very informal. And then you don't need any textbook and etc. etc. Or on the other extreme, people are kind of instructed not to move, keep moving, holding the mudra, and then not to take any notes or anything. But that's a different type of talking originally, but somehow it's misplaced in different occasions here. And the other two types of speaking occasions in monasteries in Japan is teisho. Teisho is a brief, almost like an utterance to certain particular type of Buddhist scriptures. All of them in the monastery have been currently studying. So sometimes we are summoned into some place, or sometimes it is a scheduled meeting, and then the head of this group basically give a very short, almost like an utterance type of talk. And in that case, it is really like a take-in situation, and you don't respond, and then you really take in and then see, oh, this is really yet another angle or aspect of the scriptures we are really looking at, and this is really helpful. And then in that case, this is a very formal occasion. So we don't move, and it's almost like having a little listening to some sort of utterance in zazen situation. So that's called teisho. But this word teisho is also utilized much more loosely and roughly in American community. And then we have lecture series. It's called kogi. I was having a little conversation with other priests who are not Japanese, and then who spent some time in Japanese accrediting monasteries. But then this person went to what we call gaijin sodo. I understand this word gaijin is no longer properly used in Japanese, and we are recommended not to use the word because it's gaijin means foreigner, but people from outside is the original word. So we recently replaced the word as 外国からの人たち. People who arrived from countries outside of Japan. So, but anyway, there are some sodos who have more numbers of non-Japanese people to come to receive some sort of licenses for accrediting, from accrediting monasteries. But in those cases, you have to remember, most of those people don't really have the level of Japanese language understanding to study something like this. And also on the Japanese side, we are so bad in foreign language education. So it is quite rare to find a Japanese teacher who are able to, explain what they are explaining in foreign languages. So in most of those so-called sodos geared toward for non-Japanese people to come to just spend there for certain particular time period, do not give lectures. But for instance, let's see, the one I'm affiliated with, Myokoji, particularly under the directorship of Honda Roshi, who was somebody who followed around Saki Roshi and Uchiyama Roshi. So therefore, he was quite faithful and strict about spending some time for study exclusively. So for instance, we had a routine scheduled lecture series by Honda Roshi, and when I was there, Honda Roshi was working on Eihei Shinki. And then we also had monthly Genzoe, and inviting Genzoe lecturer each month. And also Ino-san was giving us a routine lecture series on Zuimonki. And Tenzo Roshi was also routinely giving us lecture series on Nirvana Sutra. Mahayana Nirvana Sutra. So almost daily, sometimes we're very busy and in Dhanka services. So sometimes we really have to replace that with actual service for the people who support the temple. But we always tried this routine lecture series, and in these lecture series we do have a textbook. And then this is a bit like, if you go to college and if you go like a post-graduation series for master degree or PhD degree in the university in the United States, that's the type of the thing we are offering in the monastery. So, in those cases, you do need textbook, don't you? Otherwise, you can't really follow the lecture. So that's why I was always kind of mentioning you do need a textbook, and this is not those so-called Dharma talks. So that was the point I was making. So please do understand. And I believe if you're somebody who has been already following this for up to number 8, lecture number 8, you must have already have a textbook, so you don't really need to hear this. But just in case, I just want to clarify. Now, in the morning hours, we were talking about the Virocana, and then I started to talk about the Virocanas. Oh, by the way, I just want to rewind a little bit. This is really all about Buddhist scriptures are always talking about explaining how this universe is made, or what it isness. And then when you clearly really starting to crack into what Buddhist teachings about this true reality, almost inevitably, naturally, you really start to understand how you need to be in this, so to speak, structure in it. So in Dogen's language, this is called Buddhadharma, and how we need to be here is called Butsudo, Buddha way. And then this Buddhadharma, what it isness, has been described in so many different ways, so that we don't really, freeze it in one particular word and one particular concept. And each of those authentically highly revered, important Buddhist scriptures have its own characteristic, how to describe it. And then I have been mentioning that Avatamsaka Sūtra really like to use this word, Virocana Buddha and Dharmakaya as what it isness. And so we were really trying to see the core of it, and also by doing so, I really did a little bit of research on how this word Virocana really started to come into Mahayana texts like Avatamsaka Sūtra, and which in the same meaning we are still using this word Virocana or Virocana Buddha or Dharmakaya. So anyway, I was mentioning Virocana originally means it's the sun. It's something that shines. And then I also introduced some of those older texts and how this word Virocana, the image that shines, actually initially got a little confused in the oldest layers of Buddhist text. It was a part of a name of Ashra, and then eventually it goes back into something that shines, etc., etc. So in the middle of the explanation, the time was up. So I go back there. Now, the reason why the word Virocana or image of the Virocana once got confused with Ashra, according to the achievement of the last 150 years of Buddhist academia, we actually know the reason. The reason is pre-Gautama Buddha's time and also during Gautama Buddha's time, all the way now. You are familiar with the Zoroaster. Zoroaster places the fire as the image of the god, and this is originated with Persia, was very influential in India as well. And in let me use the shared screen. In the religion of Zoroaster, which is originated in Persia but also very influential in India, the head of the gods, deities, are called Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda is the something that is the also again the image of fire, light, something that shines. And then this word is the origin related with Ashura. It's kind of easy to relate. Ahura Mazda eventually become Ashura. So this is also quite interesting to see. You know, Buddhist history of Buddhism and the history of evolution of Buddhism is actually quite complicated. You know, it's not so simple. It's really layered. This image of Zoroaster being so popular in Gautama Buddha's time has been really explained in many of those episodes in Pali Canon. You know, he's once invited by somebody who seems to be like head of the organization of Zoroaster organization in India, and then he changes the meaning of the fire worship. There's a very famous sutra in that. So this image is all over the places, and it never really died out in India, and also somehow got mixed up with Buddhism, and then traveled all the way through to northern India to Silk Road and went to China. And curiously, Tang Dynasty China, which is, despite of our image, it actually origin is a nomads group of the people coming to central China and created the dynasty. So therefore, they were not really so much about isolationism. On the other side, on the other hand, they are much more open to the other culture. So at one point in Tang Dynasty, they were starting to invite many other religions, including Christianity and also Zoroaster. And then this is around the time Buddhism, in the history of evolution of Buddhism, they are going to come to the point of what we call Latta Mahayana Buddhism. And then again, it's not linear, but it's almost a cyclic. It starts to, after the Reformation, so to speak, by Nagarjuna, it becomes very pure, original Buddhist teaching, then started to again take in many of those superstitions and other outside of Buddhist belief thought, etc., etc. Then most characteristically, this is the time of Buddhism taking in much more like a mythological thoughts, which we currently call the Tantric Buddhism. So it's almost like this is the last end of evolution of Buddhism, and after this it goes into Korea, Japan as the whole thing into those nations. And then curious portion of that 9th century at the height of Tang Dynasty, and also being a very diversity, celebration of diversity type of culture at that time. Many people from Japan traveled to Tang Dynasty China, and one of them is most famously is Kukai. And Kukai studied under this newly hugely popular Tantric Buddhism, which incorporated this old tradition of fire worshipping from Zoroaster into it. And then you know, at that time, anything very popular and widely popular in China was a cool thing to bring to Japan. So therefore, Kukai brought it into Japan, and then Kukai created this Tantric Buddhism utilizes lots of dharanis, yes, and mantras. And dharanis and mantras are called real word, true words. So therefore, the school Kukai created is called the Shingon school. You must have heard about this word. Shingon meaning true word, true reality, word of true reality, which utilizes lots of dharanis and mantras and etc. etc. And they also brought this ceremony of fire burning, which after 1,300 years later, we still have that in Japan. So, you know, in one trip I made with our European Dharma brothers and sisters and some American Dharma brothers and sisters, I was showing them around in Kyoto, and I really wanted to show them Toji in Kyoto. That's the main temple of Shingon school. Emperor then gave Kukai this site, and then Kukai created this huge temple. This is the temple that still remains, that stupa, 5-layered stupa. Very often people call that as a pagoda, but I think calling that pagoda is still a little misleading. But it's a tower, and if you are somebody who goes to Kyoto by Shinkansen for the first time, that's the first sight. As the train pulls into the Kyoto station, that's the first view you catch, you know, out of the window. So it's almost like a symbolic, view of city of Kyoto, and that's Toji. And then, in Toji, the original structure where Kukai was living is still remaining, even though it's refurbished several times. And that's the only original portion of the city of Kyoto still remaining. So it's really interesting to go there to start your sightseeing or study tour or research tour in Kyoto. And then in there, routinely, they are still showing this fire burning ceremony. So I went there with several people, and everyone was saying, yeah, history of Buddhism is so layered and it's very, very complicated. So it is really true. It is very difficult to kind of going through all of those webs of layers of tradition, etc., and to see what exactly is the true line of Gautama Buddha's teaching. So in that sense, this type of discovery is very interesting to me. Anyway, that's what we are constantly trying to do. What is the true line of the Buddhist teaching? But anyway, all of this is the image of light, image of the sun, image of what shines, etc., etc. And plus, in Indian mythology, the origin of a human being is the descendant of the sun. I don't know, for those of you who are listening to this, recording, maybe you are listening to this recording from the nations that also carries a long-standing mythology. Japan as well have the mythology, and it's a very interesting type of mythology, because by now we have known Japanese mythology is some sort of a mixture with oceanic peoples' mythology, and also southern Indian Ocean's mythology, plus northern route of the mythology, all mixed and created the Japanese mythology. For instance, in Japanese mythology, the world is created by men and women together as a collaboration, vis-a-vis many of those Western mythology. The world is created man, but it's actually not possible to create something, creating descendant by the man. So I think this equality, sense of equality, expounded by Buddhism, came to Japan, somehow merged into local system rather naturally, I suppose. But anyway, in Japanese mythology as well, we do have a sense that the human being was a partially descendant of the sun. And so therefore, you can really kind of relate to this Indian mythology. And then as it goes into historical time, this word descendant of the sun became kind of stepping away from the original intention of what it actually intended to say, became some sort of a respectful epithet, so to speak. So you call somebody as a descendant of the sun, it basically showing your breed, your background is so authentic and proper, and you are hybrid. So therefore, in all the old layers of Pali Canon, Gautama Buddha is often referred as a part of the epithet. Sometimes we currently call somebody like great Osho-sama, Zenji-sama, etc., etc. And part of that at the time in old layers of Pali Canon, Gautama Buddha is often referred as a descendant of the sun. But it is not really like a mythological way of saying, but it is really an expression for, polite expression of you come from a very good family, so to speak. And so now this, all of this is combined eventually hundreds and hundreds of years later. And by the time of Mahayana Buddhism, this image of Virocana eventually becomes what shines everywhere and also what pervades into everything. So, that's tatata. That's Buddhadharma. So in another word, Virocana Buddhadharma is let me show you something. It's very interesting to me. Again, I'm going to use share the screen. Hold on. This is Virocana. Virocana is a Sanskrit, and Virocana is transliterated originally into Sino-Japanese. So we are still using this kanji. And then we pronounce this as a Vivashibutsu. Virocana Buddha Vivashibutsu sounds a little afar, but transliteration into transliteration and pronouncing it in Japanese, Vivashibutsu, it's not that far. Virocana Buddha and Vivashibutsu. And as I mentioned, this originally Virocana means one that shines, or luminousness, or luminous, or the sun. Now, Chinese folks actually tried to translate as well, instead of transliterate. And when you translate it, it's called Hen Issaisho. Hen Issaisho. I started this whole lecture series with as a warm-up. For many of you have been to Japan, and when you go to Japan, one of the places you definitely go is Nara, and you go to see this Daibutsu, the big Buddha. And the big Buddha is Virocana, and also it is explained as this translated name, Hen Issaisho. Hen Issaisho. Hen is amaneku, anywhere, all over the places, pervading everywhere. There's not one single space and time it doesn't pervade. So it's anywhere, anytime. And then Issai, again, is almost like an implementation. Everything, entirely. And then Sho is place. So therefore, if you translate this, Hen Issai Sho, anywhere, anytime, wherever, whenever, is the translation of Virocana. So what is it? So again, it's the very similar or almost in sync explanation of Shikisokuze, Kusokuze, Shiki, form is emptiness, emptiness is forms, emptiness. In Dogen's analysis, famous poem, original face, the title that's original face, spring and flower. So it's a spring. Spring pervades everywhere, and then as a manifestation, each and all of those, flowers and grass and little birds and etc. starts to arise. So this is a very interesting and clever and also traditional, authentic description of what it isness. It's very interesting. And by the way, we just talked about the Shingon school. In Shingon school, this Virocana is translated as a Komyo Hensho. Komyo Hensho is basically same thing as Insaisho. Komyo is illumination, a bright illumination, and Hen everywhere. Hen is entirely everywhere. There's not one single space and time which is not missed. And then Sho is illuminating. So it's the same thing, a little different translation, but it's the same thing. And then instead of placing it as a Virocana Buddha, they have Dainichi Nyorai. Dainichi Nyorai. Nyorai, as you know, is Tathagata, so it's Buddha. Dainichi, Dai is Maha. Nichi is the sun. So it's the same thing, but different name. So, each school originally got the idea. Whoever, succeeded the originator might have misunderstood and started to teach something else. But originally, they are talking about the same thing. It's very interesting. And also, for those of you who practiced and studied in Japan, you probably have noticed this, but many of those Soto school temples, instead of having Shakyamuni Buddha's statue in the middle of the main altar, they have Amitabha Buddha. I don't know if you have ever heard about this, but in Japan, we have currently 13 traditionally recognized Buddhist schools, including Soto school. And among those 13, I'm not really talking about those what we call new religion, which is under the form of somewhat quasi-Buddhism, but we are talking about something that has been established more than 800 to 1,000 years, etc., etc. Yeah, and it's properly registered with the government and society and culture, and culturally, the entire nation actually acknowledges this has been traditionally Buddhist school. There are 13 of them. Among those 13 of them, we often recognize. This is a very curious portion. Even though both of there are 3 so-called Zen schools, and particularly 2 of them has lots of temples, and also culturally it's quite influential, is Soto school and Rinzai school. But what we are teaching, what we are studying, Rinzai school teaching and Soto school teaching, and also the practice style is almost 180 degrees opposite. And we often recognize that, and we often talk about it, including those theological seminars and stuff. And also, another curious thing is within Pure Land school, even though we often feel Pure Land schools are all the same, there's a Pure Land school Jodoshu created by Honen, Jodo Shinshu created by Shinran. They are almost facing completely 880 different directions in teaching and practices. And curiously, even though I think there's a lot of misconception going on among the people I know who are Buddhist practitioners, among the people I speak with, so it may be a very limited conception, and it may be, in reality, it may be a little different. But I have a feeling there's a lot of misunderstanding going on about what the Pure Land School is teaching. particularly Shinran school, which is Jodo Shinshu. Some people say, Pure Land school is the kind of silly way of looking at the Buddhism because it is really talking about it is not possible to become enlightened in this lifetime, so you might as well die and then reborn into another heavenly realm, which is easier for practice and study to become a Buddha. That's not what they are talking about at all. Again, that's the type of the understanding, I mentioned something about the danger starts when people lose the ability to read metaphor. And then in Japan, among those 13 traditionally acknowledged Buddhist schools, we often say Shinran's school, Jodo Shinshu, and Dogen's school, Soto school, are almost in sync. What they are teaching, what we are practicing is very similar. Even though on the far surface, we are doing Shikanta Zazazen, they are basically focusing on Nembutsu, recitation of the Buddha. But what Shinran teaches and Dogen teaches is so similar. So we are actually the closest. So in real history in Japan, many of those Jodo Shinshu school eventually changed into Dogen school, Soto school. And then, so therefore, they have never really changed the, structure of the main hall, structure of the main altar. And also there's a reason for this, because Jodo Shinshu, that's Shin Pure Land School by Shinran, this Virocana, again, please take a look. We pronounce this, understand this, Hen Issai Sho. Yes? And now they translate as Muryojuko. Muryojuko is immeasurable, and this is a life light. Immeasurable life light. Isn't that what this is about? It doesn't discriminate anything. It's everywhere. And every single little microcosmic being, to insect, to human being, to plants, and all those animals, we are here as a 100% manifestation of entire interdependent origination. So therefore, this Virocana can be translated as, very cleverly, intelligently translated as a Muryojuko. And so therefore, their image is Amitabutsu. Amitabutsu is a translation of Amitabha or Amitayas. And Amitabha meaning immeasurable light, Amitayus meaning immeasurable life. So the idea is completely in sync. This is quite amazing to me. I think this is very interesting to me. Now, so let's go back to, I may usually spend lots of time to explain when we start the series on very important Buddhist text scriptures. As well as Avatamsaka Sūtra, we spent quite some time trying to unwrap what exactly they meant, because usually the title is like a really condensed form of the teaching, or condensed form of main point of this huge sutta is talking about. Now, I mentioned Kengon-kyo originates the word Maha Vaipriya Buddha Gandavyuha Sutra. So Maha meaning, if you're somebody who can read kanji, this is how we translate into Japanese. So Maha is translated as a dai, great, large, but of course in Buddhist terminology, this Maha is beyond the dichotomy of small and large. So again, already Maha itself is this completely pervading everywhere. And Vaipriya is translated as Hoko. This Ho is contemporary Japanese. It's a direction, but it's a Japanese, Buddhist terminology. This is everywhere. So boundlessly, limitedly, unlimitedly everywhere. For instance, our dear Dharma sister, who is the head of a French Buddhist organization, the name is in English translation. It's Unlimited Boundless Abode. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the original French, so I wish Michel was here and he can pronounce it into the microphone. But her temples, the temple she succeeded is Hokaiji. Hokaiji's kai is open, so Ho is unlimited and limitedly open. So that's why the English translation of her temple is unlimited abode. Unlimited abode, what is that? It is this. It is abiding everywhere, unlimited. And so Maha-Vaipriya is a synonym of Buddha. So Maha-Vaipriya, Buddha, but also it's a synonym at the same time. It's really pointing out to some specific angle of what we call Buddha. Yeah, and then Gandha-vyuha. Gandha is every single flowers. It's called Zatsuka. And then Vyuha is ornamentation, ornamented or ornamentation. And this is called Gansho. So that's why we call Gandha Vyuha. If you're somebody who's been studying and joining us for koan study, I often talk about how we abbreviate those 4 kanji word into 2 kanji word. And in that case, we usually like to do one word. Let's see this portion. Hold on. This portion. Sorry, I don't know how to maneuver this. Okay, so see the second one, kanji, on the right side, and then left side on this one. If you combine this is kegon. So that's why this is called Gandha Vyuha is translated kegon, and that's why we call this a kegon kyo, right? Now, this portion is very important. I'm going to explain later, but let me go into Kyo portion. Kyo is a translation of Sutra, and I'm sure all of you have been explained about the Sutra being a vertical thread. But of course, vertical thread as a Sutra is just a literal, actual explanation. But by the time of Mahayana Buddhism, we deepens the meaning. So sutra being vertical, meaning vertical from the heaven, vertical from fundamental, principle, vertical from this. So therefore, sutra also now attire the meaning of something just properly, just one line. Connected. So in another word, it is a correct line of the teaching. Yes. So that is the name of Mahavaipriya Buddha Gandha Vyuha. No wonder this Mahavaipriya Buddha Gandha Vyuha Sutra places Virocana as the main character, because it's the same meaning. It's the same meaning as Maha, same meaning of Vaipriya, same meaning of Buddha, and same meaning of Gandha Vyuha, same meaning of Sutra. Combined everything, it really explains this in depth. And then Virocana is actually the main character of this. So we are really talking about this in a very different angles and directions, so that each one of us can somehow find some connection with one of those words. So this is very interesting to me. Now, this Ganda Vyuha, Ganda Vyuha's Ganda is each and every flower, not just a beautiful flower. That's the important portion. See this, I think what I need to do is probably this. Oh yes, so let's see. This word is a flower, and this word zatsu is each and everything, including diversity of flower. So in other words, this flower not only beautiful flowers, but also includes, the type of the flower you see like all over the places in the middle. Recently, I met somebody who explained to me the reason why German people, German-speaking culture, really value this flower called Edelweiss so highly, because Edelweiss is such a tiny little flower, and it's just blossoms everywhere, and most of the people don't really pay attention. And then it's actually quite strong, and so therefore people don't pay attention, so people step on it and they walk on it. But no matter how many times they have stepped on it, it just comes back up and keeps blossoming. So this is very Buddhist way of looking at things, I think. But anyway, this is what Uchiyama Roshi always said. You remember, Sawaki Roshi was such incredibly powerful, influential person in Japan, and he still is, even outside of Japan now. We are all under the influence of Sawaki Roshi. Particularly, many of our Dharma brothers and sisters started to study or involved with us Buddhist teaching because of Sawaki Roshi's teaching, Sawaki Roshi's disciples' teaching. And so when Sawaki Roshi passed away, and then Uchiyama Roshi took over the Antaiji, initially people were looking at Uchiyama Roshi was like, oh, they are so different. People often said Sawaki Roshi was the last traditional Zen master, and he had this really loud voice and sense of presence and kind of charismatic and etc. etc. Vis-a-vis, Uchiyama Roshi is a physically very frail person, and he's in comparison to Sawaki Roshi's background, Uchiyama Roshi's background is basically very aristocratic. And then, so they speak very differently, their voice is very different, etc., etc. So, Uchiyama Roshi often mentioned, yes, Sawaki Roshi was like a great, huge, beautiful rose. In comparison, I'm like a violet. Violet is like a Japanese version of Edelweiss. It's all over the places, and there's a small little flowers that grows everywhere in the middle. But, he says, rose is a rose, and violet is violet. And each one of us as a 100% full manifestation of entirety. So, this is all related to this wonderful teaching of Buddhism. And then there's something like this. This is a Basho's haiku. Basho, yes? Basho means banana tree. Yes, we do have banana trees. And you know why banana tree is important? Yes? But just in case, in Paricanon, Gautama Buddha starts to explain this is the origin of Shanyata teaching. And he really starts to talk about, this is just like a form. This is just like a bubble. This is just like a mirage. And in one of those explanations, we are talking about our body and mind, yes? And Gautama Buddha is explaining how our body and mind is like. And then he utilizes the word banana tree. This is like a banana tree. For those of you who don't know what the banana tree, or in Japanese, basho, it's a little strange, but When I was in Myokoji, we often spent quite a long time cleaning up our gardens. And inside the garden, we used to have some banana trees. I think many of those Japanese temples, as almost like a symbolic statement, plants banana trees. And then there was one point we really had to cut those several banana trees to start to create some structure there. So I was assigned for it together with a couple of young folks. And as you cut the banana tree, it's very thick, so therefore you really can't cut easily. So what you do is it's like onion. There's a peel after peel. So you start to peel this large portion, and then another one, and you peel and peel and peel and peel and peel, and then you realize inside it's actually hollow. It's a very interesting tree. So I remembered, oh, this is what the Gautama Buddha is talking about. That's what the banana tree means. Inside it's hollow. But banana tree appears because of this whole condition of the soil and air and etc., and creates as if there's a tree. But if you really start to take one portion, one element, one this and that, and then inside it's actually there is nothing. There's nothing static there. What's there is condition, congregation of the condition. Now it's gone because we needed to take it down. And then what we did was we brought the banana trees to the pile of the other things we collected, like fallen leaves and stuff, and we brought them to Honda Roshi's original temple, which is in the middle of the mountain. And inside of the middle of the mountain, they created this organic farm. So we brought them and make it into another nutrition on the soil. So eventually it will become something else. And it's such an incredible, visual explanation of this otherwise conceptual teaching. But anyway, that's Basho. So I was explaining the name of Basho. Basho is a very famous poet. He's actually not a Buddhist priest, but his poem is so related with the Buddhist teachings. So therefore, it's quite popular to translate Basho's haiku particularly into English, and I believe it is also so in your other European languages. And one of very well-known Basho's haiku is Yoku mireba. I'm going to make it into 5, 7, 5. Yoku mireba, nazuna hanasaku kakine kana. Yoku mireba, nazuna hanasaku kakine kana. Remember, haiku has a 5 syllable, 7 syllable, then 5 syllable. And it has to have layers of the meaning, and it has to have one particular word that indicates one of the 4 seasons. There's lots of restrictions. There are lots of restrictions, and within this restriction, you express freely. So it's already the concept of the poem itself is so Buddhist practice. I found so many translations, and it really shows the popularity of Basho. But this is one of the translations that comes. Haiku sounds so boring when it's translated into English, because English language only wants to point out one meaning, kind of takes off the layers. But look closely, and you'll see shepherd's path flowers. I guess shepherd's path flowers is the equivalent of nazuna, but I think nazuna and the shepherd's path flowers are a little different. Japan is isolated island, so it's a bit like a situation like Australia and New Zealand. There are lots of fauna and flora only in Japan as well. So many of those translated words for the flowers doesn't really match with pictorial image. But what it is just a tiny little flower like this size, and it's the type of the flower that grows in the hedge of space of the hedge, on at the bottom of the hedge, along the sewage system, etc. It's just like nothing flower. It's the type of the flower people don't really pay attention. But traditionally in Japan, with the Japanese sensitivity of the four seasons, this Nazuna is counted as seven spring flowers, most important seven spring flowers, and often incorporated into, something that shows the season. But what he's talking about is something you really don't pay attention, but when you somehow he probably looked at the hedge for some reason or another and noticed, even in this unnoticeable tiny little space, there's some beautiful flower, even though it's small in size, receiving entire elements, entirety, what is called spring, and then just blossoming into it. This is the typical example of what Uchiyama Roshi said. Violet is violet, rose is rose. Yeah? This is in the sense of equality, byodo in Buddhist teaching. So I think this really shows what we are talking about in Avatamsaka Sūtra. As you keep on digging in and in and in into the title of this Kengonkyo, Avatamsaka Sūtra, we really start to understand what they are talking about as we read on. So maybe we should keep on reading on. Okay, so we have just started to read chapter 1, and then as you know, chapter 1 is the grand opening of this grand opera, and then it immediately starts to set up the image of what it isness, and the image of in this what it isness there are numerous beings. And in this Avatamsaka Sutra's opening scene, this numerous being is represented by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and deities and gods and goddesses and etc. etc. And then let me just read a little portion of that. I started to read page 15 and started to talk about it starts with the entrance of 20 Mahasattvas and led by Samantabhadra, and then goes into etc. 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 And then I also talked about that the page 16 at the point of it. There's a very interesting explanation of all of these Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas and their relationship with the Virocana Bodhisattva are explained not as master and servants, master and retinue, but it's a collaboration. So this is a very clever, beautiful explanation of spring and flowers. In another word, form and emptiness, emptiness and form, and how this is collaborating. Oh, by the way, the reason why this is so important is, let me show you something on the shared screen again. Did I write it down? Yes, I think so. So I mentioned in Avatamsaka school, this portion, this relationship, so to speak, is called Shuhan Muge. Shu is master, Han is a servant, but Muge is no obstacle. It's a collaboration situation. This is not about the master and the servant collaborating, but it is really about the depiction of this. Depiction of spring and flower. In another word, depiction of form and emptiness. So why this is so important? Because even at this point, the world religion, besides Buddhism, and also curiously, on the process of 400 to 800 years of evolution of Buddhism, there are lots of groups of within the name of Buddhism started to regain the concept of Atman, and they started to explain Buddha's teaching completely different way. And if you do have Atman, this is just like other, religions like Christianity and etc. etc. And on those religions, we use different word. Different word is this word. Jo itsu shusai. Jo is permanent, and itsu is one and only. And shu, this one and only, is the master. And then, so therefore, this one and only and permanent owns you and also operates you. This is a portion of shusai. Isn't that the concept of the other huge majority of other religions and the spiritual thought system? There's something permanent, something one and only, something who's the master of ours, and then this master creates us and operates us. And then, there's a huge different kind of variations, but at this point, let's say 3rd century, 4th century, Buddhism situation, huge group of the Buddhism started to regain this thought of Atman. So therefore, that made reincarnation possible again, which was negated by Gautama Buddha originally. So therefore, this Shuhan-muge, master and servants, actually in a collaboration situation, instead of Joi's Shusai, this one and only is operating us, creating us. It's a huge statement. As a matter of fact, I think it is still a very huge statement, even now in 21st century. The beginning of page 16, I don't know if you are clearly seeing this in this English translation, particularly this mesmerizing description of sutra tends to kind of dilute the effect of what they really want to say. But I really wanted to pull that out. And this image, this teaching repeats over and over and over and over and over and over throughout the system. Now, they're starting to introduce these people are coming and these people are coming in this world. In other words, in this whole world, there's people who call themselves Americans, people who call them French, people who call them Belgian, people who call themselves Polish, people who call themselves New Yorkers, and people who call themselves Midwesterners, and etc. etc. There are a whole bunch of people coming. And then they are all a manifestation of this entirety. But in Avatamsaka Sūtra, they use the names of Bodhisattvas and deities and etc. etc. as a kind of like a image or the name of the quality of the world. So this portion is very interesting. There's so many numbers of the people. So I just want to put out something that's very familiar to us, and also something that's kind of relevant to our practice. So I don't spend like 10 years explaining all this. But anyway, I know that's the impression you are getting starting to join our lecture series. The first one is 15 to 16. Let's see. They were present. I'm going to reread from the end of the page 15. They were present in new numbers equal to the atoms in 10 Buddha worlds. In the distant past, all of those Bodhisattvas had accumulated roots of goodness and cultivated Bodhisattva practices together with Virocana Tathagata. They were all born from the Tathagata's ocean of roots of goodness. They had already completely perfected all the parameters. Their wisdom eyes, deeply penetrating in their clarity, equally observed all 3 periods of time. They had completed, purified all samadhi. Their eloquence was as vast and endless as an ocean. They possessed the meritorious qualities of Buddha, and in their venerable dignity, they were worthy of reverence. They know the faculties of beings and accorded with what was fitting in teaching and training them. They had entered the very matrix of the Dharma realm, and possessed wisdom free of discrimination. They had realized the liberation of the Buddhas in all its extreme profundity and vastness. There's a constant image of ocean, as I always point out, and also this is throughout Avatamsaka Sūtra. So, one of my tasks in all of the lecture series is a connection with, Dogen's teaching. And also this is shows the common threads of the proper, correct line of the Buddhist teaching is never really changes. It's always consistent. That's why I always do this. But this portion reminds me of Tenzo Kyokun. You all probably have this book. This is a translation of Eihei Shingi. Eihei Shingi, the title is translated as Dogen's Pure Standards for the Zen Community. This is a translation by Okumura Roshi himself with the collaboration of Taigen Taigen-san from Chicago, in Chicago. I think he's still in Chicago. Taigen-san was one of the collaborators with Okumura Roshi in translation of Dogen's teaching. And if you do have, I'm sure you do know this. Eihei Shingi has several sections, and one of the sections is instruction to the Tenzo, and that's called Tenzo Kyokun. Out of this Eihei Shingi's 6 chapters, this Tenzo Kyokun is particularly well known, I think, in the United States because there's a wonderful translation of Uchiyama Roshi's detailed commentary on Tenzo Kyokun. And then Uchiyama Roshi, of course, overlaps. Uchiyama Roshi always reminds us that the Buddhist teaching is nothing to just understand conceptually. This is actually about you. It is written for you, and it is about you, about your life. So it is very important to take this teaching in and experience the correctness of the teaching in your own life, and how you really incorporate the teaching in your behavior of the day, every day. So this wonderful book is really talking about instruction to your own, conducting your own life, overlapping instruction to Tenzo, which is absolutely what the Dogen is trying to do, and it's absolutely, how do you say, possible and correct, and particularly someone who lives 850 years after Dogen. But anyway, in that, this is why in American Buddhist community, Tenzo Kyokun is very well known. In Okumura Roshi's translation, I believe there are several other translations. It's page 35. This is a famous line. I think I wrote it down in, so share the screen. I'm going to show you. I did too. So, again, for me, I really have to read in original language because English translation doesn't hit me well. 功徳会中に一滴もまた、I'm going to read. Do not give away a single drop from within the ocean of virtues. You must not fail to add a single speck on top of the mountain of good deeds. So, he's calling this entirety as Kudokukai, ocean of virtue. This is so Avatamsaka Sūtra. Again, Avatamsaka Sūtra, the characteristic I keep talking about is depicting this world is so beautiful. And as we go on, we go into the chapter 4 and 5, and it really starts to explain how this world is really formation of this world. And then they're really talking about our action itself is a part of the formation of this world. So you really have to, mindfully follow the teaching. And in each moment you open your mouth and start to say something, each moment you are supposed to act something, you really have to act towards the direction of the Dharma. And then this is keep on creating as ocean of virtues. And in this ocean of virtue, there's not one single drop you have to kind of dismiss. Each and every drop of this ocean creates this ocean. There's nothing excluded. Nothing is outside of this. Nothing comes into it. This is entirety. So in this entirety, each one of us, each one of the drop is important. We care for each one of us. Each one of us are very important. And then, so therefore, even though this huge mountain, you probably feel, I'm like nothing, I'm just one of the billions. But mountain is a congregation of each little speck. So don't ever forget to add one speck again and again and again, one speck of good deeds. So this is very kind of similar and in sync with what Avatamsaka Sūtra, even at this opening portion, is trying to depict. Someday I do like to do more for Eihei Shingi. Until a few years ago, we spent about a year studying Chiji Shingi. Chiji Shingi is translated as pure standards for the temple administrators. This is the last of the 6 chapters of Eihei Shingi. And then eventually you may see the lecture series on the website and YouTube. But I did a detailed explanation of Chiji Shingi. I found it was so interesting because Chiji Shingi is basically a koan collection. And I love to examine koan. And also, Chiji Shingi's koan collection is also particularly almost like peculiar because Dogen starts Chiji Shingi with an old story that appears in Agama, Parikyanon, about Gautama Buddha's kind of guiding one of his cousins, bringing him into Buddhist Sangha, etc., etc., which I don't know, but the way he describes that story is so different from the rest of the story in Chiji Shingi. So that's why I was really attracted to it. And also, Eihei Shingi, this book is so dear to me because this was something Honda Roshi always wanted us to study when I was unsui in Myokoji. So someday I like to retrieve that lecture series and offer it on the website and YouTube. But anyway, in that case, maybe we should do Tenzo Kyokun again. And Tenzo Kyokun is about the instruction to someone who cooks. And the next chapter is instruction to someone who receives the food. So we should do as a double, maybe. Anyway, let me continue. I have 10 more minutes, I think. Yes? 10 or 15 more minutes, so let me continue. So the next one I like to point out is towards the end of page 16. There are also Vajra-bearing spirits. They are numerous as atoms in the Buddha world. Their names were of, actually this Avatamsaka Sūtra gives each one of these Vajra-bearing spirits a name. marvelous form, Narayana Vajra bearing spirit, solar sweetness, Bana Vajra bearing spirit, smell flower, light Vajra bearing spirit, etc., 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 etc. But this Vajra bearing spirit, the original Sanskrit Vajravani. In Japanese, as someone who was born and raised in Japan, we call this as a Nyo-sama. Sama is, of course, the last one, Mr., right? But the Nyo-sama, Nyo. This is also Kongo Rikishi. Vajra Rikishi is, let's say, sumo wrestler is also Rikishi. Riki is power. She is a man. So powerful man, Vajra powerful man, Kongo Rikishi is our way, in the secular world, we always call this. The reason why we are so familiar with this is that particularly there's two Kongo Rikishi standing in front of the main gate of the temples very often. So, I opened this conversation with the Nara's Todaiji in Nara, the big Buddha. I see everyone in this group actually traveled with me to there. So you all remember, and also people who log in online, we have traveled with together to Nara. So you remember this, and probably your memory is so vivid. But once you go to Nara, you walk and walk and walk to the entrance of this huge temple site. And, on the process for that, there's lots of wild deer. People often think that's kind of like a reenactment of a deer garden in India. But the truth is, before Buddhism was brought into, area of Nara or Japan, locally in area of Nara, there was some kind of mythology going on. And so therefore, deer was a messenger of a deity at that time in that area. So it kind of overlapped with the image of Buddhists' deer garden in India. So in Nara, particularly in Todaiji area, it's very famous for those wild deers hanging out. And then we try to not to bother them, but sometimes we try to feed them. There's a little vendors to give you, like if you pay $1 or so, they give you a whole bunch of deer food. And then they come to you, and then also this is kind of interesting. You bow to them, and deer learned how to bow back to you, and then you give the food. Sometimes they are so hungry, so you have to be very careful. Your fingers are not going to be bitten. I was once walking around there with a paper ticket. We used to use a paper ticket for taking bus ride. And then I bought the one-day ticket because I had to go to Todaiji's lecture series, and then twice a day. And so I was walking and carelessly, and then deer came and started to touch my hand, and I thought, oh. And then before I knew, deer already ate my ticket. I think deer also, like goat, likes to eat paper. But anyway, in that Todaiji, as you go in, there's an immense gate, and there's this huge statue on the both sides. That's Kongo Rikishi, yeah. And then particularly the Kongo Rikishi is famous because it was created by someone whose name is Unkei, and his student, so-called student, Kaike. And they were like definitive artists who kind of changed the direction of the Buddhist sculpture in Japan. They are early Kamakura period artists, 12th century. And then you get to see this almost like a Michelangelo, like completely changed depiction of Buddhist statues, which formerly is so static and rigid. Now it's such an incredible, realistic expression of body and, emotion. So that's Kongo Rikishi. So Kongo Rikishi originates as someone as you keep reading on, there's a word of 33 heaven. Yeah, this is based on the original indigenous cosmology of India. We mentioned when we're talking about the structure of Avatamsaka Sūtra, there's a 6 heavenly realms, which is still inside of the realm of desire, right? And in that 6 realms, Avatamsaka Sūtra chose 4 of those heavenly realms, and then there's a Buddhist teaching expounded. And then on the top of that, and then also on the top of that is on the top of Mount Sumeru. Mount Sumeru is the Indian image, most possibly like Everest, because the Indians are looking towards the north and there's a huge wall of Himalayas. I don't know where you live, but I think, America offers that this incredible wild nature view, depending on where you are. So you might actually have the same feeling, but in Aoyama Roshi's temple is in Nagano Prefecture. It's formerly called Shinshu, right? And it is a very mountainous area. And when I first went to visit Aoyama Roshi, I got there one day earlier, late night. So I stayed in a town a little farther away from their temple called Shiojiri. And it was late night in the middle of the winter. And I took a little hotel room across the station. And then I was very hungry, and I decided to go outside and look for somewhere I can go eat. And then I realized this whole area is really covered by huge mountain. And of course, it's not like the Himalayas. Japanese mountains are basically, if we say it's very tall, they're like 2,000 to 3,000 meters tall, which is quite tall, I think. So it's like 8,000 feet, I think. So it's like some rocky mountains, yeah? So it's surrounded by it, and I really felt like, wow, this is like a huge wall, yeah? So Indian mythology, when you take a look at the northern side, there's an immense wall, which is not even like a Nagano Prefecture's wall, but it's like 3 times taller, yeah? So they kind of started to imagine there's a heavenly being living on top of that. And that is where, chakra lives. Chakra is, how do you say? Someone who rules this heavenly world on top of the mountain Sumeru. It is called 33 heaven. 33 heaven. 33 is Sanju-san in Japanese. You know my conversation in way it's leading to. But anyway, let me just complete the logic. This 33 heaven is called 33 because on top of that, there's almost like a square type of castle. And on top of this castle, on the corner, each corner, there's 8 heavenly realms. So imagine this is like a typical Indian imagination. It's so immense, it's outside of our imagination. But somehow you can kind of think about that, so it's not really unthinkable. When the Buddhism utilizes this word fukashigi, often translated as inconceivable, but we are not talking about something outside of our grasp understanding. There's nothing outside out there. But when we say fukashigi, it is about, I can think about it, but not really reaching that far. So for instance, we often say unconceivable, like numbers of the suns on Ganges. As a matter of fact, if you do have some sort of measurement system, particularly with the technology, you can kind of come to some sort of assessment or assumption of how many grain of the suns can be along some particular part of the particular part. But would you really like to do that? And how long does it take to do that? So therefore, in that case, it is fukashigi, unconceivable. Buddhist terminology is very cautious not to give anything outside of this. Again, everything is within. In other words, there's nothing noumenon, like God, outside of us, or enlightenment outside of this, or Buddha nature outside of this, some kind of static thing outside of this, trying to grasp, we are trying to grasp, nothing like that. So therefore, we try not to give that kind of impression with usage of the word. So anyway, yes, so it's immense, but unconceivable immense, but its four corners have a almost like a tower-like structure world, and inside of this world, there's 8 world. So 8 by 4, 32, and then in the midst of that, there's a huge castle. That's where chakra lives. So this is called 33 heaven. And this Kongo Rikishi, Vajra-bearing spirits actually live in those 33. Now, the word 33 is not just 33. In a Buddhist, numbering, 33 usually meaning unconceivable, innumerable. One of the reasons is 33 cannot be divided. You divide and divide and divide and divide and divide and divide, and you just go entirely towards the zero, but you will never reach. Again, that's already the depiction of what it is, isn't it? We are standing so firmly on the chair of emptiness. This time and place, you can just try to see the core of it, and you just make it into half, make it into 1/4, and make it 0.000000, but you never ever go into the core of it. You never have any static thing that stays there and creating this. So 33 is just like that, and it is that type of expression. I think Buddhist folks are such a great inventor of language. I think all of these are such incredible imagery, which really points out the correct Dharma, I think. But anyway, most of you, I have traveled to Japan, or some of you who I know who are following this lecture series are somebody who has lived in Japan and trained and practiced and etc. etc. So many of you are very familiar with this place, kind of like a temple called Sanju Sangendo. I might have wrote it down, so hold on. Oh yes. So Kongo Rikishi. Kongo Rikishi in Japanese is like this way. Kongo is Vajra. As you know, Vajra is often translated as a diamond, but it is something unbreakable. So it is also yet another description of Dharma. And also this Kongo Rikishi has this, just like a Manjushri, often has a sword called Vajra sword. So Vajra sword is a depiction of strength or quality that cuts through the web of delusion. And so therefore this Kongo Rikishi is a protector of Dharma. So therefore it's called Vajra-bearing spirits. Now I'm talking about the Sanju-san heaven. Sanju-san heaven is also sometimes often utilized as a synonym of one of the 6 heavenly realm, where I think the Avatamsaka Sūtra meets. But this is Sanju Sangendo, a place called Sanju Sangendo. Sanju-san is 33. Ken, or gen, is originally Japanese measurement system, one certain particular distance. And then do is, the whole building. So this building is divided into like 33 hall, and then each one of the hall, it's actually open hall, there's no partition, but you see this is the end of one hall because of this standing pillar. And then one pillar to another pillar is one gen. It's like really long corridor-like. And in this, there's a 1001 human-size Avalokiteshvara statue, Kannon statue, and originally it was all painted with a leaf of real gold. And each one of them has 1,000 hands, with each hand holding the tool to save a human being. And then this was created one generation before Dogen was born. And then it really shows the huge cultural society, socio-cultural influence of Kannongyo or Lotus Sutra. And then they really wanted to have something really visible about what the Lotus Sutra really depicts. In Lotus Sutra, in chapter 25, there's a famous sutra which is often regarded as a separate sutra called Kannongyo, Avatamsaka, not Avatamsaka, Avalokiteshvara Sutra. And then often it's recently translated as a sutra of compassion. But within this particular chapter or sutra, shall we say, there's a depiction of Bodhisattva changes its shape and goes into 33 different places so that they can really expound the Dharma. So each people in these 33 different shapes, 33 different places will clarify the Dharma and rescue themselves, perfection their understanding. By doing so, they really save their life. So this 33 is innumerous, uncountable number. It doesn't mean 33 places. It is everywhere, anywhere, anytime. Again, that's Virocana, isn't it? So yet another depiction of what it is shown in this number 33. So, this portion of introduction, chapter 1, as you keep looking at who shows up, you can spend numerous amount of time talking about and explaining it. But I really need to be a little more selective. But anyway, this is as much as we can go today. Time is up. So next time we meet is actually next year. Because October, November, December, as usual, as my annual deal, I'm going to spend winter ango period in Japan. And then this year, we have an exciting plan. There are 3 French-speaking group of the people from our Dharma Brothers and Sisters organization, and also 1 Italian group of people. And so there will be 5 weeks out of those 3 months, I will be traveling with our dear friends in Dharma. So therefore, while I'm in Japan, because of this time difference and schedule, I cannot give intensive monthly. So the next one, I believe it will be January. So when we meet January, please remember, we are still at the beginning of chapter 1, and I'm going to pick up from maybe around, around this page. And then I'll try to do some selective explanation of what is this quality of those people depicted as spirits or gods or goddesses or bodhisattvas, etc., etc., is about. And so it is still very relevant to our own practice. And then hopefully we go into chapter 2. And then after that, I like to think we can talk about each chapter by each lecture in 90 minutes. Oh, maybe. Hopefully. Okay, so please spend a wonderful winter ango period, and I'll see you in the new year. Thank you very much.